The walls of the prison were cold and uninviting, built from the bones of those who had been forgotten by the world outside. Inside the dim, grey cell, a man named Aaron sat, his fingers tracing the edges of an old, worn-out newspaper article about the outside world. His heart still ached with memories of a life long gone, but today was different. Today, something was stirring within him, a plan, a hope, a spark that had been ignited by something beyond the bars. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the narrow hallways, a sound that carried both authority and fear. The new warden, a man known only as Warden Blackwood, had arrived that morning, and everyone knew that nothing would be the same. Aaron could feel the air shift, as if the walls themselves were bracing for what was to come. In the corner of the yard, prisoners whispered rumors about the warden's ruthlessness, his icy demeanor, and his obsession with control. That night, as the prison slept under a blanket of silence, Aaron overheard a conversation from the adjoining cell. Two men spoke in hushed tones, discussing a mysterious escape route that had never been detected, a path known only to those who dared seek it. Curiosity gnawed Aaron, and he pressed his ear against the cool stone wall, trying to make sense of the fragmented words. The old tunnel, the one beneath the laundry room. "We're not the first to try," one of the voices muttered. Aaron lay awake, replaying the conversation in his mind. The tunnel, it was a rumor, but the pieces began to fit together in a way that felt too real to ignore. With a growing sense of urgency, he turned his attention to his fellow inmates. His closest ally, Marcus, was a man of few words, but Aaron had learned to trust his instincts. If anyone knew anything about this tunnel, it would be Marcus. The next day, Aaron found Marcus in the yard, sitting on a bench, his eyes scanning the prison grounds. The two men exchanged a brief nod before Aaron slid into the seat beside him, careful not to draw attention. "I overheard something last night," Aaron began, his voice low. "There's a tunnel beneath the laundry room. Have you heard about it?" Marcus froze for a moment, his gaze sharp and calculating. He glanced around, ensuring no one was within earshot, before he leaned in closer. "It's not just a rumor," Marcus whispered. "I've seen it with my own eyes. But it's not that simple, Aaron. The guards patrol it. And Blackwood, he knows." Aaron felt his pulse quicken. Knowing that Warden Blackwood was aware of the escape route only made things more dangerous. But it also confirmed something. If Blackwood knew, the tunnel might still be the only way out. "We need to move fast," Aaron said, the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. "The warden's not going to make it easy for us, but we have to try." The days that followed were filled with subtle preparations. Aaron and Marcus exchanged glances during meals, while they communicated in cryptic conversations with their eyes. The plan was simple but risky. They would have to wait until the evening when the guards were most distracted, and then, under the cover of darkness, make their way to the laundry room. It was a cold, moonless night when the time finally came. The prison, typically alive with the sounds of clanging metal and distant voices, was eerily quiet. Aaron's heart beat loudly in his chest, each step towards the laundry room feeling like an eternity. He could hear Marcus's breathing beside him, steady but tense, as the two men moved in the shadows, avoiding the occasional guard patrol. They reached the laundry room, its vast interior filled with rows of industrial machines. It was here that the tunnel was said to be hidden somewhere beneath the floorboards, concealed from the untrained eye. Aaron knelt to inspect the ground, his fingers grazing over the cold, hard concrete. He had no idea where the entrance was, but the murmured directions from Marcus had been clear. "Look for the loose panel near the back." After a few minutes of searching, Aaron felt the give of a panel beneath his fingertips. With a quick movement, he pried it open, revealing a narrow, pitch-black tunnel that descended into the earth. "We're in," Aaron said, his voice barely a whisper, but the words carried the weight of everything they had been waiting for. Marcus followed closely, both of them now aware that there was no turning back. The tunnel was cramped and claustrophobic, barely wide enough for them to move forward in a crouch. The air was thick with dust, and each breath felt like it was being stolen from them. They crept forward, the sound of their movements muffled by the dirt walls. Every so often, Aaron could feel the tremor of distant footsteps overhead, and the thought of being discovered sent shivers down his spine. But just as hope seemed within reach, an unexpected sound stopped them in their tracks. The distant, unmistakable crackle of a radio. Someone was speaking, and the voice was all too familiar. "Marcus, stop," Aaron hissed, his hand gripping his friend's arm. "Something's wrong." Aaron and Marcus pressed themselves into the darkness of the tunnel, holding their breath. The voice above grew louder, then paused. Suddenly, a flashlight beam pierced the tunnel, illuminating the entrance. There, standing at the edge of the hole, was none other than Warden Blackwood, his cold eyes scanning the surroundings. The beam of light moved closer. They were caught. Marcus's eyes locked onto Erin's, both of them understanding the gravity of the situation. "We're not done yet," Erin whispered. "Follow me." Erin led the way deeper into the tunnel, his mind racing with possibilities. The warden's sudden appearance had thrown them off balance, but there was still a chance. They had come this far. The tunnel seemed to stretch on endlessly, the air growing staler with each passing moment. Erin didn't know where it led, but he wasn't about to stop now. Hours seemed to pass, but eventually the tunnel began to widen. The faintest sliver of moonlight filtered through the end of the tunnel, signaling that they were close. Erin's heart skipped a beat as they approached the exit. This was it, the moment they had both dreamed of. Beyond the narrow opening lay freedom, and Erin could almost taste it. Just as they reached the end of the tunnel, the world around them erupted in chaos. The ground beneath their feet shook, and a violent crash echoed through the air. Erin turned to see Marcus, his expression twisted in shock. "No," he shouted, but it was too late. The ground gave way beneath them, and they plunged into darkness. Erin hit the ground hard, the impact rattling his bones as he gasped for breath in the pitch darkness. Marcus landed beside him, groaning in pain, his voice muffled by the oppressive silence of the cavern. Dust filled the air, and Erin struggled to make out their surroundings. It wasn't just a hole. They had fallen into an underground chamber, one that seemed far too deliberate to be an accident. As their eyes adjusted, the faint outline of symbols carved into the stone walls came into view. They were old, crude markings that seemed to tell a story or a warning. "What is this place?" Marcus whispered, his voice trembling as he traced one of the carvings with his fingers. Erin remained silent, his instinct screaming that they weren't alone. A distant sound broke the silence, the echo of footsteps above, slow and deliberate. Erin's heart sank as he realized the warden hadn't given up. Blackwood was still hunting them. "We can't stay here," Erin muttered, his voice firm despite the fear coursing through him. He scanned the chamber, desperate to find an exit, while Marcus's gaze remained fixated on the ominous carvings. Erin's fingers grazed the cold stone of the chamber wall, and suddenly he felt a draft. Pushing against a section of the wall, he discovered a concealed door that creaked open to reveal another tunnel. Marcus hesitated, his eyes darting between Erin and the carvings. "Erin, what if this is worse than staying?" he asked, but Erin's resolve was unwavering. "We've come too far to stop now." The new tunnel was even narrower, forcing them to move single file, their bodies pressed against the jagged walls. The air was thick and suffocating, each breath a laborious effort. Behind them, the sound of something moving or someone following grew louder. Erin picked up the pace, adrenaline overriding the exhaustion that gnawed at his body. The tunnel forked into two paths, each shrouded in darkness. Erin and Marcus stopped, their breaths ragged as they weighed their options. "What do we do?" Marcus asked, panic creeping into his voice. Erin stared at the two paths, his mind racing. "We split up. It's the only way," he said, his voice heavy with reluctance. Without another word, they each took a path, the darkness swallowing them whole. Erin moved forward, his footsteps echoing in the narrow passage, his mind plagued with doubts about his decision. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, and the tunnel seemed endless. Then, faintly, he heard a scream, Marcus's voice, distant but unmistakable. Erin ran back, retracing his steps as the scream echoed again, chilling him to the core. He reached a clearing where Marcus's path had led, but what he found stopped him cold. There, at the center of the chamber, was Marcus standing unharmed, but staring at Erin with an expression Erin had never seen before. Behind him, the warden emerged from the shadows, a smirk playing on his lips. Erin ran back, retracing his steps as the scream echoed again, chilling him to the core. He reached a clearing where Marcus's path had led, but what he found stopped him cold. There, at the center of the chamber, was Marcus standing unharmed, but staring at Erin with an expression Erin had never seen before. Behind him, the warden emerged from the shadows, a smirk playing on his lips. "Welcome, Erin," Blackwood said, his voice dripping with triumph. "I've been waiting for you."